the things that I was able to do, the freedoms that I had, the schooling that I got, and I quickly realized, and this is probably not good, but I'll share it. But it's like I realized that because you're an athlete and because you're good at something, you don't have to do everything that everybody else does.
Mhm.
And I realized that more in college because I got to travel so much in college playing ball, going to different, universities and going, I don't have to go to class.
Mhm.
Don't worry about it. Okay,
Like
got
lesson
you.
number 4, succeed without winning.
Oh, I love this is my fan favorite because there is a difference between success and winning.
Mhm.
Okay. Everybody has a different example and definition of success. And when we lose, I counted that as a win in our book
Yeah.
because it gave me an opportunity to talk to these kids about life. I fielded every ball that was hit to me. I made every play okay, cool. But we win and lose as a team.
Mhm.
But you can walk away from there and say, I gave.
Yeah, I
Okay.
left it all on the field.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's people, coaches today, they do it through yelling, they do it
Yeah.
through screaming, intimidation. That breaks these kids down. Now they're afraid.
Yeah.
Now that they make a mistake, I want to give this thing a look because I've always told my kids, I've always told the kids I've coached, I've told people that I've mentored, and I lead today. I don't want anybody in my circle to live the what if game.
Yeah.
What if I would have done that? What if I would have tried that? No, I want you to be able to walk through that and say, I did that.
Did you know there's a technology that's actually an app on your phone that uses sound waves to tell your brain what you want your brain to do? We had a young man that was on a guest on our podcast, the Mike Litton Experience, who had a traumatic brain injury. He was sleeping 3 hours a night. He's using NewCalm now and he's sleeping more. Go to newcalm.com, Mike15 promo code. Newcalm.com, promo code Mike15 for an extra 15% off. Go today.
Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience podcast. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. Mike is passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
Dru Wischhover, thank you so much for being our guest on the Mike Litton Experience. I'm super excited for our time together. And like we talked about before we hit record, everybody has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. So with your permission, we're going to start with where you were born, go up to today, and then we want to talk about this amazing book that you wrote that I'm just absolutely gobsmacked over. And I also want to talk to you about like Inspired Title Group and all the stuff you're doing with escrow and real estate. Thanks again for being here. I really appreciate it.
Mike, it's awesome to be here. I appreciate you taking the time and giving me a chance to share my story because as we talked a little bit earlier, everybody has a story. And, it's cool to learn a little bit about, people through their stories of life. This is great.
Yeah. It's the stuff, I just dig this,
Yeah.
I dig people. I hide it well, right? But I just really am into people,
Yeah,
So,
as am I.
so where were you born?
So I am a native of the south suburbs of the Chicagoland area. So I'm a Midwestern kid. I grew up in a very affluent family. My dad's an attorney or was an attorney. My mom's a stay-at-home mom. My brother is younger than myself, and we kind of grew up with all the things that any kid can ever want, never ever need. And I was blessed and thankful for that. And, I realized that these things these were gifts. These weren't things that were just part of normal people's lives. And as I grew older, I was able to actually experience and see that just to say, wow, I really did have a good childhood. I was really afforded a lot of things because it wasn't normal. And it kind of, my dad always instilled in us that it was, you're judged by the house you live in, the car you drive, and the money you have. And I went, no, you're not. That's ridiculous. And it's just, I needed to find that out for myself. And, it took some time. I was probably, in my teen years of doing that. So, went to a Catholic high school in the Chicagoland area and played baseball there for 4 years. And then I was blessed to have the opportunity to play baseball at ASU. And I stopped there in my end of sophomore year going into junior year because my at that time girlfriend and we found out we were having a young child, and that is it was awesome, it was exciting, it was scary. You're 19, 20 years old and you're going, what is going on now? I got to go, I got to do this adulting thing, and this
Yeah.
is overrated. I'm playing ball right now. I don't want to do this.
Right.
This is
Right.
crazy. So, she, at that time, she was going to DePaul University to be a teacher, and our lives were just kind of, blessed upside down.
Yeah.
And I had to get into a career and had to figure out where we're going to live and kind of get into that stuff. So, just kind of fast forwarding through that was really when I started my journey into kind of discovering who I am and things that meant things to me, things that are important, and really putting things into perspective, because it wasn't about the finances, because here I am, a 19-year-old kid in college living a dream, playing ball, and saying, okay, none of this matters because I need to make money now, and I don't have much experience in careers because I'm a college kid.
Mhm.
Thankfully, as a teenager in the summers, I learned a trade, which was construction and carpentry. So did that for a while and took various different jobs for years, till, I figured it out. And I'm still thinking I'm figuring it out. I'm still not sure, with this whole title business. I'm just, I'm testing this. So I continued to grow through the world of, got my finance degree and became an arbitrator for broker dealers. So I'd help people set up broker dealers that wanted to, get into finance and sell mutual funds and stocks and bonds and things. And then the 2005 market came up upon us so quickly, and I went, oh, this is not going to be pretty. This is not going to go well. So I realized with my partner at that time, I was a partner in the firm. I said, this isn't going well. This is going to go poorly. And, you and I are the top paid people. We're going to be cutting people left and right. There was a need in the title business that my dad was as I said earlier, an attorney, and also owned a stake in the title insurance business. One of his partners had cancer and was pretty sickly. And I said, I'm going to bow out of this. I'm going to go over there and help in that. I don't love it. I know I'm not going to love this, but I felt this pull to doing this. So
Right.
I went into the title insurance business and I haven't left since. So it's been 21 years that I've been involved in this. And I needed to do it differently, Mike, honestly, because it's not sexy. Title insurance is not sexy. It's part of the process, right? It's like you buy a house and you go to have your house closed and you have it done at the title company, or the title company comes to you, whatever the case may be, depending on where you live. So I realized that, my passion wasn't for title insurance. My passion was for, people. And I noticed that in that time, in that day and age, there was, that was the time where short sales were happening. There was these, fix and flips and that whole craziness. So thankfully I had earned enough money, and I started becoming a hard money lender to a lot of our clients, because they're doing these quick, short sales and things. And they don't want to go to a traditional bank. They don't want to learn they don't want to go through the process of doing any of that. So I started lending money at 12, 15, 18% interest and going, this is too easy. This is dumb. Then my construction background came in, and I started another company called Inspired Development, where I was doing the fix and flips, because I'm going, why am I lending these guys my money when I could do this myself? I've got the title company, I've got the experience.
Right.
So I got out from underneath my dad's umbrella and I started Inspired Title, Inspired Development, and I was lending money. And it provided me an opportunity to, how do you differentiate yourself in this industry? Because nobody knows about you. I said, we're going to give back a portion of our proceeds from every closing that we do. And I want to make a difference in the communities. I want to make a difference in the world. Now, this is not to say that, so I had my son when I was 19. So he is today he's 37 years old. We had another son who is also he's 30. Wow, he's 34. And then my daughter, who is now pregnant and she just turned 30. so I coached the boys in baseball because of my passion for that.
Mhm.
And I never missed a game. I said I never was going to do that because my dad never, because he provided for us, he was never at any of my games. He never was there.
Me too.
It was just, you know, you're standing up on the mound and you're pitching that day, and mom's out there, and that's great, but you're looking around going, where's dad?
Mhm.
And as a kid, you can't connect those dots, Mike.
Mhm.
You don't understand, like you think it's something you did, or you think there's a reason behind it that's your fault, but in essence it's just dad was providing. So
Mhm.
when I talked about my life earlier, about how wonderful and how great it was it? Because those are the material and monetary things.
Yeah.
Those aren't the things that really mean something.
Yeah.
I want his
True.
presence.
It's
You
true.
know, I
Yeah,
wanted him there.
it's why I gave up radio, um, when the kids were going into high school, because I had made myself a promise that when I became a dad, when they looked up in the stands, I'd be there.
Yeah, yeah.
And that happened. That was
No,
exactly, you know what I mean? And they never once looked up in the stands and I wasn't there unless I was out of town and
right,
be there. So,
right. Same
yeah,
way.
I mean, it's amazing how we are always looking. My dad was always looking to make things better for us than he had it as a kid. Same thing with me, right? And same thing with you.
Yeah,
We're
yeah,
we're just looking to improve. We're looking to make it better. And I love how you were such a hands-on dad. And I love the fact that you wrote a book called The 2 Hour Difference
yeah,
about being involved and staying involved.
yeah.
One of the things I told you before we hit record is we're now classified as a leadership and parenting
Mm-hmm.
podcast. And it's because we spend a lot of time talking about communication. We spend a lot of time talking about commitment. We spend a lot of time talking about dedication. We spend a lot of time talking about standing your ground.
Right.
So, like when your teenage kid puts their hand up and says, talk to the hand, we call it giving them the Heisman, giving you the Heisman,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
When they do that, you have to stand your ground. You have to basically talk your way through that hand.
Right.
And because they're literally screaming for attention. They're crying for help. It's just they're doing it in a way that we don't necessarily recognize it because it's counterintuitive.
Mm-hmm.
But the worst thing in the world we can do is throw our hands up, say whatever, and walk out the door because you just lost your kid.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
No, it's
so,
so true.
yeah. So anyway, I just think it's
No.
absolutely amazing. Can I ask you a couple of questions about your
Oh
childhood?
yeah, please.
So, who was the most influential person to you growing up?
That's a really great question, and that has recently uh, become a question that I've asked because of the distance that I've had with my dad.
Mhm.
So I had a gentleman who I started coaching with when my son was 8 years old, who was a couple years older than me. But man, Mike, this guy just he had it. Like
Mhm.
he did it right. I watched and I learned and I just studied him and his relationship with his family and his kids. And I left baseball games and I would get it home and I would call him and just thank him for being a presence in my life, because you don't know the impact that you're making. Now, here I am. I mean, I was a much younger dad than a lot of the folks that were around me. So it was, at the time he was probably, mid 40s. Here I am, 25 years old.
Mhm.
And so he's 10, 15 years older than me. I looked up to this guy. I called him in times of need going, I, I don't know how to wrestle this life situation.
Mhm.
I didn't call my dad. I didn't call, a family member or friend. I called this guy because I spent a lot of time with him. So this is somebody I really looked up to, somebody that I to this day call friend. I treat, he's like a brother to me. Every time the baseball season starts, whether it be travel ball or just major league, he's like, "You ready? Here we go." It's,
Mhm.
we're, what craziness are we going to see and talk about this year? Because it's
Yeah.
just changed over the years. But it's a wonderful relationship, and I'm just thankful to have a person like that in my life. And I think everybody needs a mentor or a leader in their life.
Yeah, I totally agree. Growing up in South Chicago, what was your favorite thing about growing up there?
I think the things that I was able to do, the freedoms that I had, the schooling that I got, and I quickly realized, and this is probably not good, but I'll share it. But it's like I realized that because you're an athlete and because you're good at something, you don't have to do everything that everybody else does.
Mhm.
And I realized that more in college because I got to travel so much in college playing ball, going to different, universities and going, I don't have to go to class.
Mhm.
Don't worry about it. You'll be fine.
Mhm.
And I was, and you're kind of saying, this is really bizarre, but it's, you have preferential treatment.
Mhm.
So I was thankful for the high school education that I got and the discipline, because I went to an all boys Catholic high school, and that is probably the best decision that I made as a young adult on my own, because all of my friends were going to the public school, all my friends were staying local. I had my eye on wanting to go to this Catholic high school because they were known for baseball. They were good at baseball. I had a dream, and
Mhm.
I just stepped outside of my comfort zone and, stepped outside the boat and said, all right, I'm going to give this a shot. It may not work, but thankfully it really paid off to teach me a lot of great life lessons. It really did.
So in high school, did you have a favorite subject?
I'm a math guy. There's no
Yeah.
doubt about it. Even to this day, especially with finance and and money and things. Yeah, that's always been a strong suit of mine, and loving to lean into that. Plus it intrigues the mind. Math is made up of patterns.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you have a
Mhm.
favorite teacher in high school?
Several. My high school baseball coach was definitively not only a teacher but a mentor, and somebody that was, again, he would lean into me and he wouldn't give me the preferential treatment because of my name just being Dru and being an athlete on the team. It was, hey, you need to set an example. Hey, you need to work harder, because it's just kind of like what we do with our kids. You're my son. I'm not going to just give you a pass. I want you to earn that spot. Right. And that's where I learned that whole demographic of, mom and dad have this influence on kids. And, the dad is coaching because the kid might not make a team anywhere else unless dad is coaching. So now that kid is batting third and, playing shortstop, but he's thoroughly mediocre.
Mhm.
And so I wanted my kids to be, I never had to talk about my kids. I was so blessed that both my boys played in high school and in college. I never had to speak about their talent, their level. I have two boys who are very different. One who will hit a home run and let you know that he hit the home run. I'll have another one who will hit a home run and you'll never hear it. He'll run the bases. He's humble. He'll sit on the bench and go, when am I up again? So
Mhm.
it's really, that's two different types of coaching,
Mhm.
because that celebratory place was something that I'm going, I hear you, but I don't love it. And be careful, because that can go away quickly.
Mhm.
The other side of it, you don't have to tell people what you do. You
Yeah.
let your actions show it.
1000%. I love this. I love the fact that you have two different personalities and you're tailoring how you deal with them differently. A lot of people think that parenting is and coaching is a one size fits all,
Oh,
and it's
oh
just
my.
not.
No.
It's just not. So my son goes out or comes home the summer between his eighth and grade year. So he's going into high school as a freshman.
Hmm.
Comes home and he tells his mother and I that he wants to play football. He wants to go out for football. And we sort of looked at him, and you could have knocked me over with a feather, because I said to him, I said, Michael, you're not even a fan of football.
Hmm.
You don't even watch football. What are you doing? Right. And the first thing I asked him was, I said, is there a girl involved? Because all the stupid stuff I ever did, there was a girl involved. Right. Like, is there a girl involved? Right.
I
And he goes,
concur.
no, Dad, there's no girl. Turned out his best friend, David, wanted to go out for football and asked Michael if he'd go with him. Well, Michael's a really good friend, and he and David are still best friends today, right? So they go out together for football. Michael has practice, all that kind of stuff. It's hot. You remember football, right?
Oh,
And they had two-a-days, right?
yep.
HE double hockey sticks week is what we call
Yep. In August.
it, right? The hottest time of the year, humid, the whole thing.
Mhm.
So I go pick him up because I figure he's going to need his dad after the 10th practice in 5 days. I go pick him up. He gets in my brand new Ford F-150 and he slams the door. I have an issue with people slamming doors. Okay. The door didn't do anything to you. Yet
Right.
you're taking it out on the door. And in this case, it's attached to my brand new F-150, right? So I said, what's going on? And he said, well, Dad, I'm mad. Okay. What are you mad about? Well, I'm a backup right guard. Well, you remember in 2 days, right? That week they give out your assignments. So you know
Yep.
what your position is. I don't want to be a backup right guard, Dad. I want to be a tight end. I want to be a wide receiver. I want to be a linebacker. Okay. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever played organized tackle football before? He said, no. I said, do you think your coaches know that? And he said, well, yeah. And I said, okay, here are your options. You can continue to run your mouth like you're doing now, and you can just ride the bench all season long. Or on Monday, you can strap your helmet on, tighten it up, and you can hit the guy across from you in the mouth when you line up. Okay.
Right.
The next game, hit him harder. The next game, hit him harder. You can show them through your actions, not through your words, that you're ready for a promotion.
Right.
Okay. So then following Monday, I go to pick him up from practice. The coach, the varsity coach, comes running clear across the football field. Mr. Litton, yeah, what's going on? He goes, who is that? They said, well, that's my son. And he goes, well, he doesn't play like him.
Yeah.
He goes, what happened between Friday and today? I said, well, we had a talk. He goes, keep talking to him.
Right.
By his 4th game of the season, he had been elected team captain, starting right guard, starting inside linebacker, starting special teams. They were Ironman football because they were a tiny group.
Right.
It's JV.
Right.
So he goes through the entire year, and the coaches are coming up to me because I'm the announcer for the football team.
Mhm.
And now the coaches are coming up to me, Mr. Litton, we're so excited about Michael's going to be on varsity next year and this and that. Well, the varsity goes to their first playoff game in school history.
Wow.
They promote Michael to varsity, make him starting special teams. So we go to the game, they lose. We're going home and we're sort of licking our wounds. And I said, Michael, are you pumped up about next season? He goes, nope. And I said, what's up? He goes, Dad, playing football this year made me love basketball more.
Mhm.
I want to play basketball full time.
Yep.
Which he knew was fine as long as, and he said this, he said, I knew that if I started this, I had to finish at our standard. I'm done. I don't like being yelled at. I don't like getting hit. So he played basketball the rest of his full time, the rest of his high school career. And he was the MVP his junior and senior year. The kid is just a beast, absolute
Yeah.
beast. But I'll tell you what's interesting. That time on the line as the right guard, he learned how to push people around. Well, when you
Mhm.
came in the paint and you were playing him, good luck.
Right.
Good luck.
Right.
Because he's going to put his body on yours, and he knew inherently that he could move people around.
Right.
Right? There was a kid that had 200 pounds on him, and he completely disrupted his game because nobody had ever had the guts to actually put a shoulder into him.
Sure.
Nobody had ever had the guts to move this kid off of his spot. Michael did. Kid didn't
Mhm.
score a thing the rest of the game. It
Yeah.
was unreal. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's, but anyway, so that's what we're talking about is do it with your actions. Don't
Right.
run your mouth. Show them, right?
Yeah.
Or show them
Totally.
through your play. So
And
anyway,
you talk about it too, where you say things like, you can tell the difference between kid A and kid B and the different personalities. It's just like what we do as leaders in our businesses, as leaders in our industries and things. You got to know your audience.
Yeah.
You can't take somebody who is low key and make them a super outgoing and energetic person. However, you can do the other. You could take somebody that's outgoing and energetic and quiet them down.
Yeah.
But it's not as easy. That's not how they're made. So you got to know your audience. You got to know your team. You got to know who you're playing with. And honestly, Mike, this book has gotten me to the ability of this is how I run my businesses today. Right butts in the right seats, the Lencioni thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at this and said, when I started my businesses, I said, hiring people, all that stuff, no problem. But, having success doing this, we're doing well. And all of a sudden I'm kind of running into some adversities and things. And I'm going, why am I having so much trouble with this? Well, I went backwards to say, run your business like you coach a baseball team. You're not going to put little Johnny at shortstop if he can't play there.
Right.
Well, tell Steve that he's now going to be he's going to be a title closer. Somebody else is going to be the title examiner. And it's just knowing where they belong. And when I got that mentality and I really perfected that is really when I started to see some things take off in my business accolades. And it's just so simple when you practice it like anything else. Consistency of that same dull nonsense brings success.
And it
Just
is
be
dull,
consistent.
but it's effective.
Absolutely.
It's a big deal. And it's a big deal because we're all human beings and we're all built differently.
Yeah.
Like I have a favorite question that I ask employees, that I ask contractors, that I ask people that are around me that I'm working with. And we're going to take a break real quick. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the 5 lessons, the 5 life lessons in
Awesome.
your book, The 2-Hour Difference. And we're also going to talk about my favorite question to ask
I can't
somebody
wait.
that's working with us. We'll be right back. Did you know there's an app that has no side effects that allows you to use sound waves to tell your brain what you want it to do? It's called newcalm.com. And it's amazing. It literally uses sound waves. If you want to tell your brain to go to sleep, if you want to tell your brain to recover, if you want to tell your brain to put you in peak physical state, if you want to tell your brain to focus, if you want to tell your brain to take a power nap, you can do all of these things and more with newcalm.com. Go to newcalm.com today, promo code Mike15. Newcalm.com, promo code Mike15 for an extra 15% off. Go there today. And we're back. We're talking about, before the break, we were talking about your book, The 2-Hour Difference. And we specifically were talking about how not every person, not every kid, not every employee, not every contractor, not every partner is built the same. They all have different personality traits, right? Some of them are detail oriented, some of them are not. Some of them are energetic and people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
some of them are not.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And what's
Yes.
interesting about that is I always go sit with them and I ask them, how do we win with you?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is when you ask that question, they actually answer it.
Right. Right.
And they give you the framework or they give you the blueprint to actually win with them. I love the fact that you wrote this book. And part of it is I have a lot of passion when it comes to parenting. I have a lot of passion when it comes to leadership, period, right?
Sure.
Like we talked about before we hit record, I believe parenting is sacred leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the most important job we have as dads is pouring into our kids. And even today, the kids are older now, right? They're in their 20s, almost late 20s. One's mid 20s, one's, and they'll call me and they'll go, Dad, I just need 5 minutes, right? Dad, I just have this question, okay? And it's really cool. What usually happens is they'll call me and then I'll just start asking them questions and we'll go through it together to sort of uncover whatever it is that the issue is and then how we go about tackling it. I oftentimes don't tell them what the solution is. I ask them questions to help them self-discover it.
Love that.
And it's really cool because the best thing about it is they own it, right?
Yeah. No,
so let's talk about this amazing book. It's on parenting, but I believe it's a big thing for leadership too.
Yeah.
So you have 5 life lessons. The first one is set a vision and build your foundation on it. Can you talk about that for a second?
Yeah, sure. And simply that's, if you remember when I was speaking about my goal and my dream, right? So it really stems from there where I sat back and I said, I want to go to this private high school where my friends aren't going. I have a goal. I have a dream. I want to pursue this. And I'm not going to give up because of just, external factors, right? I want to give this thing a look because I've always told my kids, I've always told the kids I've coached, I've told people that I've mentored and I lead today. I don't want anybody in my circle to live the what if game
Yeah.
What if I would have done that? What if I would have tried that? No, I want you to be able to walk through that and say, I did that. It didn't work out. I did that and I'm a better person because of that. And talk about your successes as well as learn from the struggles, because every time you fail, it's an opportunity to learn and to correct, to go ahead and either share your story with somebody else or do it differently or better. Like it's we have this amazing gift. It's called live. Just live and do. We've all have made poor and bad decisions in our lives, but we're here to talk about them. Let me see, let me check. Yeah, I'm undefeated in the game of life against everything that I've faced that's been difficult.
Yeah.
I've never lost.
Michael used to lose basketball games and he was devastated.
Right.
Because he was a leader, right? And he felt for his teammates and he felt for the fans. And I mean, all the whole thing. And I would ask him, let me ask you a question. Are you going to learn more from winning or learn more from losing? Tony Robbins likes to say, when you win, when you succeed, you party. When you fail, you ponder.
Yep.
Right? You're going to learn way more from losing than you ever will from winning. And it got to the point to where he knew exactly what it was I was going to ask him.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And he's like, Dad, the same guy. Yeah.
Right.
Because I need your perspective to shift.
Yep.
Okay.
Consistency.
Yeah. I need you to be thinking about, I'm not afraid to lose because if I lose, I'm going to get better.
Right on.
Okay. So I'm going to go take those risks. I'm going to go do those things. I'm going to go, like you said, I'm going to go live. Right.
Right.
Life lesson number 2 is seek to discover the unknown. By the way, I love this. Love this. But seek to discover the unknown.
So when you think about what that is how do we navigate things that we don't know, right? How do we, and what happens oftentimes is something gets in our way, typically ourselves. We will run in front of ourselves and go, I can't do that. I'm not a good ball player. I don't have that skill, or I can't talk to that girl, or I can't, the I can'ts, right? Instead of putting all of that negativity into you, try to go ahead and, again, take that chance, live that opportunity, and go through that motion and go, oh my gosh, look what I did. Because I'm not a big fan of like flossing, right? I don't love flossing, but I do it. And then what that does is consistently doing things that it builds up a discipline. When you learn a discipline, you become stronger naturally because you just overcame something that you didn't like to do. You overcame something that you didn't think you could do. So what happens? You inherently become stronger and you become more confident, and those obstacles become less because now you're starting to see things with an optimistic point of view versus the negative lens that you continue to look through all this time. And it's just so frustrating to watch the young adults. And where's that stemming from? What they see, their surroundings. We're a product of our environment. If mom and dad are constantly saying, well, you can't do that. You're not allowed to do that. You're never going to be good enough. You're not going to be doing that. Well, of course, that's what's in them. But I'm telling you, if you're a person who's heard that, or if you're a product of that environment, you are better than you know you are. You don't know how good you are. You don't know how strong you are until that's the only thing you have left to be. That's the only thing you can lean on is your strength, your own merit of, I can't lay here. Nobody's going to feel sorry for me. I got to get up and tighten my bootstraps and I got to go give this a shot.
Yeah.
Because nobody's going to always be there to, extend the arm and pull you up. Sometimes you have to do it yourself.
Yeah, it's true.
And
Absolutely.
I'd rather do it myself, my man. I would much rather, I feel so much greater after I've accomplished something that I struggled. We live in a society of like everything's disposable. If it's broken, you don't try to fix it. You throw it away and buy another one. No, I'm going to be the guy who's tinkering with the lights at Christmas going, no, these bulbs are going to work. This whole string is going to work. I'm going to find the one. Because when I do, I may still throw the damn thing away, but I did it.
Right.
Because I wanted to, and I felt the challenge. I get fired up. I get energized when somebody comes to me and says, Dru, you can't do that. Oh, really? Yeah. Step away.
Right.
Okay. Because I'm in there. I'm going to get that car in that space. I may butter the sides of it. There may be a little nick, but I'm in there. Don't tell me I can't do something.
Yeah.
And I lead that way. I run my business, my office, my family, my mentor program through the church I work with. Like these kids, it's amazing how much of a positive impact you can make by breathing such a little bit into them.
Yeah.
Just give them a little bit of hope and let them go.
True. It's absolutely true.
Oh,
It's absolutely true. And by the time they get to you, right, they're so beat up and they're so defeated and they're so, and it's like, okay, talk to me. Right. I had a lady the other day that I hosted a real estate symposium, investing seminar thing out here all day. And I sat down after I introduced the first speaker, and she walked in the door, and she walked up to me and she said, "Hey, can I sit next to you?" I said, "Sure, of course." I taught a class that she attended a year ago, Drew. A year ago, okay, and a year ago, I asked her some questions live in front of the audience, and her response was, let's call it semi-belligerent.
okay.
And I made a mental note that this is somebody that's going to need my help. Didn't ask her any more during the class, taught the class for a couple of hours. Afterwards, she came up to me and she said, "I'm going to take that behavioral assessment and I'm going to send it to you," which she didn't do. So this Saturday morning, a couple of weeks ago, I'm sitting there with her and I said, "Hey, that behavioral assessment, did you take it?" And she said, "I think I did." And I said, "Well, you never sent it to me. So we need to have you take it again, right? Because it's been a year."
Yeah.
And so she said, "Well, send me the link." So I sent her the link while we were sitting there. She took it that afternoon and sent it to me. So the next day on Sunday, I get on the phone with her. I'm on the phone with her for over 2 hours. Turns out everything that's going on with her, I asked her a ton of questions and all of her responses were negative. All of her responses were, let's call them uninspired.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm like, what are you recovering from? Why is it that you're hurting? Okay. Because right now you've got a wall up and you're defending your heart. I need to know what's going on. Turns out she just got out of an abusive relationship with a guy, and she's been trying to recover from it without talking to anybody about it. She's trying to handle it on her own because we suffer in silence. Okay.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I know what to watch for. I've been dealing with people long enough that when I get a particular response from them, I know it's time for us to sit down and go, okay, talk to me. What's up?
Right. Dig deeper.
So she spent 2 hours with me on the phone and is now in recovery. Like literally, we're talking every day, and she's recovering from this trauma that she's been through and starting to put her life back together.
That's so great.
Well, that comes from listening, right? It comes from that. It comes from seeking to discover the unknown, because literally that was the thing that was holding her back.
Right.
And she admitted it after, right? So lesson 3 is inspire for 9 innings.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, everything around me is inspiration. And that's obviously where the name of the company came from. Is I'm very motivating. I'm very inspiring. I'm very energetic, and I'm very fun. So I put like I'm on high energy for 9 innings, and I expect the same from my players, from my work associates, my colleagues. I want you to give and give until it hurts, because you don't know. I realized quickly, Mike, that you don't know what people are capable of until you push them to see how capable they are.
Yeah.
And you put a kid out in the field and you hit balls at him, and you hit balls at him, you hit balls at him, and he's like, "Why are you hitting me faster?" I said, "That's what you're paying attention to? You did not pay attention to the fact that you didn't miss one of them?" I said, "Perspective, my man. Like you didn't miss. I put you in a really challenging situation, and I pushed you harder than you've been pushed, and you succeeded. Your perspective was, why'd you hit so many balls at me so fast, coach? To show you what you can do, to allow you to see what your capacity is. I need you to do that for 9 innings. When the game starts, I want 110 till the game ends. we'll celebrate or we'll sorrow together, regardless. If you can walk off the field and go, I fielded every ball that was hit to me, I made every play that, okay, cool. But we win and lose as a team. But you can walk away from there and say, I gave.
Yeah. I
Okay?
left it all on the field.
That's right. And it's people, coaches today, they do it through yelling. They do it through screaming, intimidation. That breaks these kids down. Now they're afraid.
Yeah.
Now that if they make a mistake, they're afraid what's going to happen. Coach is going to, bench me, or I'm never going to play again, or I'm terrible because I bobbled a ball. I mean, the Michael Jordan story. How many shots did he miss before he made? And he's a champion. He's ridiculously, an icon. So here we are. We're belittling and beating these kids down because we're, vociferous to them, and all they hear is noise, yelling and screaming. Every time they heard a yell or scream and raising my voice, it was praise. It was inspiration. It was excitement. Because as I got excited, they did. And when they got up, their ability raised also. Because I excited them and I energized them and I fired them up. And they realized that they can throw the ball a little harder. They can run a little bit faster. They can get there and make the play with just that little bit of energy and excitement and inspiration that they aren't getting somewhere else. So just push and give yourself that chance to succeed and be all that you are, because you were made in this wonderful light of God's eye, and he didn't make you to fail. So go do it, man. Go give it. And if you're doing it at 80%, you're not cheating me. I don't care. You're cheating you, because I'm not going to see you after baseball season until next season, or I may not see you again because you may play somewhere else. But realistically, you're cheating you. Why would you do that? Don't cheat yourself.
Amen, brother. Amen. So life lesson number 4. No dyslexia here, just so you know.
Okay, got you.
Number 4: succeed without winning.
Oh, I love this. This is my fan favorite, because there is a difference between success and winning. Okay. Everybody has a different example and definition of success. And when we lose, I counted that as a win in our book, because it gave me an opportunity to talk to these kids about life. And I watched their demeanor, I watched their attitude, and we talked about so many things, and very little of them were baseball. Like, yeah, okay, that error was made. We probably should have had some more hits. Do we ever think that they were better than us? It's okay. How do we handle that? Because there's going to be people in life that are better than you. Everybody's not going to get a trophy. Everybody's not going to be able to be the president. There are going to be some people that are going to dig ditches. There's going to be people that are going to watch those people dig ditches and manage those people. Does that make you less of a person? In order for us to all win, it takes a semblance of everybody. So you can say that we walked off this field and we lost the game, but we won we learned a lesson. We've got an example. I know where I have to improve. I know how I'm going to help Tommy over there, because, maybe if we do that double play a little bit better, I could have, flipped it to him. If you can just come up with one thing when you leave this dugout that you can say, yeah, coach, we lost, but I won by blank. You fill that in. And as you walk out that dugout, you tell me what that is, and I'll let you go see mom and get your hot dog. But I want to hear what that one thing is. You'd be amazed at the insight that these kids had. I was floored with some of these things. And some of them were, paragraphs. Some of them were a couple words. But nonetheless, when we started that to the end of the year, I told the kids, first practice, I said, guys, look around. Today is the worst that you're going to be. Every day from here on, you're going to be better. And I said, if you come to practice with that mentality and come to games with that mentality, you're winning.
Yeah.
So did you succeed in your baseball career, or did you win in your baseball career? What did you do?
Yeah. Love that. Absolutely love it. Life lesson number 5: find the best coach for your child.
This one has a lot of emotion in it for me too, because we live in a world today that there's a lot of parents. I mean, divorce is high, and there's a lot of single parents out there. And, there are some instances where, as a baseball coach of almost 30 years now, I have seen, parents, we're a babysitter. The child gets dropped off, and 2 hours later they get picked up, and um, there's not a lot of interaction and engagement, and so I feel really really sad and for the kids in that situation. But then I take that a little deeper and say I really feel bad for the parents, because they don't even know who's coaching their kids.
Yeah.
Finding the best coach for your kids, you wouldn't leave your kids in a dangerous situation. So go there, listen, pay attention. And if this is something that you don't feel is part of what your want is as a parent to raising your kids, then move on. There's options. And it's not about being on the team that always wins. That's not the answer. The answer is, well, I want him to play on a team that's going to, go win the championships and get trophies and stuff. I can buy him a whole bunch of trophies and learn nothing, versus learn a whole bunch of things and have a trophy that he can wear around his neck to say, I learned some life lessons that are more valuable because I'm going to take this with me every single day of my life.
Yeah.
Mike, I was invited to two valedictorian speeches from my former ball players. And in both of those speeches, they mentioned their best experiences were playing their travel league baseball and the coaching they had to help them succeed in their schooling and their life today. I'm in the audience and I'm bawling. I've got, tissue. My wife is going, what are you doing? I'm going, did you just hear what he said? Like, and I get chills even saying it. And I wrote that in the book. There's another nugget in the book that I was able to coach some inner city kids. This story it's amazing, because they were not, parents never showed up. They were never there until we started to win, until we started to show success, because they were used to their kids failing. They were used to their kids not being paid attention to. And we turned this season around, and all of a sudden the parents I had to beg these parents to come watch them play. They're good. They're fun. They're having a good time. They're not, they're not losing. They're winning. And it was just, I wrote about it, and I have tears in my head and my heart every time I tell the story, because these kids don't know what they don't know. You're the parent. You're putting them into this position. You're going, here, kids, here's the book. Go ahead and, read it or don't. Or here, go play baseball. Go. Because I need 2 hours of time for me. And you don't even know what environment you put them in. So there are a lot of coaches out there that are wonderful and remarkable, but there's a lot of coaches out there that have no idea how to do it. And you and I have both seen them. I have had horrible run-ins with many of them. I have a chapter in the book that I write about interactions with bad coaching and really how to determine it and what they look like and the monster that they are. And it's only written from my perspective and experience, because I know that I would never want anybody that played baseball for me or my own kids to be in an environment like that.
Yeah. And you can spot them a mile away.
They're the loudest ones out there.
30 seconds with them and right? And by the way, you mentioned something that, if it's okay with you, I really want to talk about for a second.
Sure.
Parents, this is what you mentioned. You mentioned, the parents will bring the kids and they'll drop them off for 2 hours because they need their own time.
Right.
Okay. Parents say those types of things, and they say them, kids hear everything you say, and everything you say as a parent affects their self-esteem.
So
When they become a disposable item where you're shoving them off somewhere so that you can have 2 hours to yourself because I just need quiet, or I just need to go get my back worked on, or I just need to go get a manicure and a pedicure, whatever, right? You're letting that kid know that your time doing whatever that idiotic thing is more important than they are by far. And all you're doing is finding places to plug them. You're finding places to throw them to. You're finding places to get them out of your life so that you can avoid them for a period of time. That is one of the most destructive things that a parent can do, and they don't even realize they're doing it.
Right.
They don't realize these kids are sponges.
Right.
Okay. One of the things that I've learned is I owned a Keller Williams office the whole time my kids were growing up. And I ran it out of my house. I ran it out of my office at home. And I did it on purpose because if I was at the office, the agents would, right? If I was at home, I could concentrate on what I needed to concentrate on, get done what I needed to do. And then I could go to the office and pay attention to them and train them and all that, right? So my kids grew up listening to when the stuff hit the fan, it ended up on my desk. And so they listened to me talk with attorneys. They listened to me talk with mediators. They listened to me. You with me? And they grew up watching or listening to the not so good side of real estate. Okay.
Right.
And we got them handled. We got everything taken care of. It all worked out. And a big part of it was seeking to discover the unknown. Okay.
Right.
What's interesting though is they grew up in that house and they now are reflecting on it. And both of them are coming to work with us with our real estate investment company. But both of them said they wanted nothing to do with real estate growing up.
Right. Right.
They've come back to me and said, Dad, we are tutoring our friends. We were tutoring our classmates on FICO scores and mortgages and how to qualify. And right. It's like, and they're like, we had no idea what we were picking up. Okay. I want people to understand that they're also picking up the negative stuff too, right? They're listening to things that you say, even if you think they're out of earsight or
range.
Range. Yeah. Thanks. Drawn a blank. But even if they're outside of that, or you think they're outside of that, they're hearing what you're saying.
Totally. Product of their environment.
I just want people to understand that their children's value of themselves is affected by this, and it's not in a positive way. Yeah. And I feel like it's important that we talk about it because we're in 66 countries now worldwide. I want people to hear this. I want the world to hear this. Okay. Yeah. Because what you say matters. What you say is real. And what you say to and about your children is important. Yeah. It's important.
It's so true. It's so well said, and it's so very true, because you don't think before you speak in instances like that. And when the damage is already done, it's you shuffle them off, and if they feel like they're a disposable object, they act like that. And then you wonder why they're not listening. You wonder why they're not behaving, because they're waiting for the next time they're going to get dropped off at something that they don't enjoy to do. So you can have free time.
They're waiting to be disposed of.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
And that is just,
it's crushing.
Oh my goodness.
It's crushing.
I cannot thank you enough for being our guest on the Mike Litton Experience. People can go to Amazon. I'm looking at the Amazon site for the 2-hour difference. I thoroughly enjoyed every second of this. I'm so glad we had a chance to meet. Thank you again for being our guest on the Mike Litton Experience.
Thank you so much, sir. I appreciate it. It was great. You're awesome.
Appreciate you, bud. Can I ask you a question? Did you know that there's a technology that uses sound waves that'll tell your brain what to do? There literally is. It's called newcalm.com. It can tell your brain to heal, tell your brain to sleep, tell your brain to do all kinds of things. It can get you fired up. It can be a pre-workout. Newcalm.com, and the promo code is Mike15. Newcalm.com, promo code Mike15 for an extra 15% off. Go today.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at the Mike Litton Experience.